Welcome to episode 14 of Pinnacle FC. Gareth Wheeler, Jake Osgathorpe with you as we take a look at the markets for this weekend across Europe's top divisions. We should say that there is domestic football midweek in terms of league play next week as well. So we're really getting to the thick of it. And we're starting to figure out what certain teams are all about. Cue the Manchester City talk, because they're the talk of European football right now after somehow, some way being 3-0 up on Feyenoord in the Champions League midweek to finish 3-3 in a home fixture under Pep Guardiola. This is just unreal stuff. They haven't won a game in 6, and it doesn't get any easier for them this weekend as a trip to Anfield is ahead. A game, I know we're still in the month of November, heading into the month of December, but a fixture like this can go a long way to tell who may win the Premier League come next spring. Let's get straight into it. First, on the way that you're looking at Manchester City right now, it's not the team that we've seen win back-to-back Premier Leagues, is it? It's just a group without Rodri, a much different team. They're not starting Kevin De Bruyne. They're really missing that foil or that other player that can spell off Erling Haaland. Julian Alvarez is a big loss for this team. And at the back, Ruben Diaz has been out. John Stones has been out, which is nothing new. But the back four look absolutely fragile. Is this what this Manchester City team is all about, Jake? Is this what we're left with? A team that still look good on the balance of it, but are nowhere near reliable enough to back on a week-to-week basis?
Yes and no. I do think that some of it is a little bit overblown. Obviously, 6 without a win is a very bad run of form. But you look at, they played Tottenham twice in that time, a team that always seem to have their number. They play in a style that doesn't really suit City in general. Sporting playing in a very counter-attacking style as well, which again doesn't really suit Manchester City. And Brighton and Bournemouth are two very good sides in the Premier League that will probably take a couple more scalps before the end of the season. So I don't think it's quite, full-on panic buttons, the sky's falling down, but the way in which they're defending in particular is a problem. But again, it goes down to those injuries you mentioned, because whenever you're missing the Ballon d'Or winner, whenever you're missing Ruben Diaz and John Stones at centre-half, this is always going to be a problem. To concede 17 goals in those 6 games without a 6 winless run is alarming. But they all look pretty avoidable, the goals, which is the weirdest part. And I guess the strangest thing for everybody watching is that Pep's not managed to figure out a solution just yet. I think it'll come. I think he'll figure it out. It's just a matter of when. And obviously, like you said, this is a massive game, another huge test against the most informed team in Europe, away from home as well. So yeah, we're going to learn a lot more about City and Pep. But I would just say, I think going forward, they're still offering plenty. They were really good for 20 minutes against Spurs. Should have probably been 1 or 2 up. And then as soon as Spurs got that 1 goal, it seemed like the confidence drain from City again. Same with the midweek game against Feyenoord. I don't know if you watched it, but as soon as Feyenoord pulled one back at 3-1, Pep Guardiola reacted like his team had lost the game. He was that almost upset and dismayed at the fact they conceded once. So he knew that they were fragile. Makes it even more questionable as to why he rang the changes when they were 3 up and he didn't just, press home to get that win. Because you look at the Champions League table, they need the win as well. It's not just the Premier League. So, yeah, it's fascinating the way which is set up. Like I said, I'm not full on panic buttons yet with City, but I think if they lose to Liverpool, title's gone. And it is a case of, can they get into the top 4? Because they've shown that against teams that are half decent, are pretty capable sides, that they are going to struggle for the rest of the season.
Well, let's get into the match. Like you mentioned the manager. I mean, he's acting very strange on the balance of it, both just on and off the field. And the thing about the XG battle, and we look into the data, they've lost the XG in their last 5 games that they played. I know that it's been a little bit of a difficult schedule, but Bournemouth, Sporting, Brighton, Spurs, and Feyenoord, and you're losing the XG battle to those teams, Jake. I think that says a lot about where this team is. It's a Sunday late game. It's at Anfield. It's a 4 p.m. local time kickoff. Liverpool, you can get them. I don't know if it's certainly not based on form. Perhaps it's more just based on reputation and what we expect in Manchester City. Liverpool, you can still get them at a at a plus number at plus 112 heading into this match. You get Man City on the handicap at just about even money on Pinnacle, which is just, it's something that really you just don't see anymore. The goal line is tempting in this game as well. When you're looking at these markets, Liverpool at plus 112, the drop plus 277. You can back City at plus 236. Man City at plus a quarter of a goal at plus 0.25 at plus 105, and the total is set for 3 here. How do you handicap this game based on the markets on Pinnacle? What do you see?
Yeah, it's a very difficult one because there's been a lot of money for Liverpool, as you would expect. They were around plus 135 before Man City played Feyenoord. They're now, as you said, it's plus 112. I would imagine that if they, at the time of recording, they're currently beating Real Madrid. If they do that, I think they'll get even shorter, maybe go for around the even money mark. I probably think that's a little bit too short and probably shows a little bit of too much disrespect to Manchester City because that final game, obviously, as bad as it was, they were missing a lot of the defenders that will play this weekend, like Stones and Diaz should be fit to go. Walker didn't play midweek. He had a rest, so he should be fit to go. But either way, I just think the bet in this one is to take the under. Might be a bit contradictory given the fact that I've just labelled the defensive frailties of Manchester City, but I honestly think this is must not lose, and the only way in which they can do that is to make this a really dull game. And it won't take much because Liverpool have been fairly controlled and low scoring at home. I think I put up the under the same goal line against Real Madrid in midweek under 3, and touch wood, that is going all right. But I fully expect City to turn up and really try and be difficult to beat and kind of go away from what we've seen from them. Probably under Pep Guardiola, but it's no surprise that the last 2 head-to-heads at Anfield have gone under. I do think it's an approach City have taken to try and stifle the crowd and try and make things very difficult for what is a very, very good attacking Liverpool team. And at the flip side, Liverpool, best defence in the league, at home, less than 1 expected goal against conceded, and just 3 goals as we talk across Premier League and Champions League. So I honestly think that the 0-0's a serious runner. I think these two could easily cancel each other out. And I wouldn't be at all surprised either to see Pep Guardiola do something very drastic and maybe play Diaz Stones, maybe play Akanji as a holding midfielder, and Rico Lewis as a holding midfielder, and really try and just stifle Liverpool. Because, as I said, if City lose this game, title's gone. If they draw, they're kind of still within striking distance. So yeah, that's the way I'm seeing it, and I do think that the goal line at 3 is probably a quarter of a goal too high for me. At minus 102, I'm more than happy to make a play on that. And by all your noises there, I'm suggesting you're taking the over, are you?
I am. I'm taking the over in this one. It's a very rare head-to-head. My actual initial instinct when you're looking at the markets and you're trying to find value, I was like City on the handicap here. But then when I'm just thinking about all the issues that they're having right now and just the defensive frailties, I just can't back that when I'm digging into what's actually happened as of late. Let's start with City. Like I mentioned, they've lost the XG battle in their last 5 games. They've only scored 10 goals away from home and they've conceded 7. It's very unusual. This is a team that usually is so much more strong away from home. They only have the 4th best expected points in the Premier League away from home as well. They're a team that can't help going to the over because they simply can't defend. They've gone the over 2.5 in 6 of 6. Both teams have scored in 5 of 6. They've lost 4 straight away, including in the Carabao Cup, the Spurs. Both teams to score has played in all of those games, and including has played in their last away win that came all the way back at the Molineux, 2-1 against Wolves. Before that, it was 1-1 at Newcastle, 3-1 at West Ham. Their only clean sheet away from home was in the first game that they played of the season, and that was away to Chelsea. So I just can't trust them away from home. Even historically between these two teams, City hasn't lost to Liverpool in their last 4, but they haven't had a clean sheet in 11. Liverpool haven't had a clean sheet against City in 4, and both teams to score has played in 9 of 10. Yes, Jurgen Klopp, as manager, played into it. I understand all that, but typically there's a lot more to, even in these games where there's been a lot more to lose, they've still been playing to win. And I think that will be the case this time around. Liverpool ahead of the Madrid match, and we're recording during that match, no loss in 14. They've played to the over in 5 of their last 6. So yes, it's been more controlled. They're the second best home side in the Premier League. The only side that's better, incredibly, is Brentford. 11 goals scored, 3 against, but their XG is up north of 13. 3 goals conceded is the fewest, but their expected goals is just around 7. So they're playing, the numbers maybe flatter them a little bit in terms of what that control looks like. So I think the best play in this game is over 3. What is it at minus 102? Or minus 110. That's the play. I was also tempted Liverpool straight up at plus 112, but I think there's goals in this game regardless. So it's a good old fashioned Wheeler versus Oz head to head here.
Yeah.
It's very rare. We haven't been doing this season very much at all.
Yeah, it's last season felt like it was every week. This season, yeah, this might be the first or second. I just kind of fell on the side of they can't continue to do the same thing and expect different results at Manchester City. Obviously, I'll hold my hands up if I'm wrong, and if Pep Guardiola fields a similar lineup as to what we would usually see, where it's Kovacic in midfield and without Rodri, they're so exposed. In which case, the overs is obviously the play, but I fully expect him to have something different going on because they just can't continue playing the same way.
That's what we keep on saying, but now it's been 6 games. I mean, solutions don't look like they're ready available, and the body language post-match wasn't great either. So let's see how that plays out. It should be a great game. It's going to be a must-watch nonetheless, and the best markets available are all on Pinnacle. Okay, I've been scorching hot in terms of my Serie A, La Liga plays, but I look at the markets this week and I'm more drawn to the Premier League fixtures. So that's where my focus is this week. What other games in the Premier League do you have your eye on this weekend?
I've got a couple starting on Friday. I like Brighton to win and both teams to score against Southampton. I think one of the really interesting things about this game is that Brighton struggle against teams who let them have the ball, and we know Southampton won't do that. Southampton will want to dominate the football. They're 5th for average possession so far this season, so I think Brighton are going to find as much joy against Southampton as they have done in recent weeks in wins against Bournemouth and Manchester City. But obviously, the both team score element comes in the fact that they just can't keep clean sheets. Brighton, they do give you opportunities. I think both teams' scores landed in 5 of 6 league games at the Amex. Southampton have actually scored in 7 of the last 10 as well, so showing a little bit more going forward. Obviously scored twice against Liverpool, showed a little bit more in attack. So plus 173 about Brighton to win and both teams to score to get the weekend up and running. Okay.
No bet for me in that game. Southampton at home are a bettable team for me. Away from home, right now, I just can't get there with that team and what the market is telling us here. What else is making your card in the Premier League this weekend?
I'm quite happy to back Arsenal on the handicap at West Ham plus 102. You're getting a goal and a quarter is the hurdle, but I think the technical term is that Arsenal have started cooking. They really are flying at the moment. You see how important Ødegaard is to them in attacking. It's everything together. It takes the burden off Saka. It means that someone else can create chances. It's another player the opposition have to worry about. Thrash Nottingham Forest 3, hit Sporting for 5. West Ham, they beat Newcastle on Monday, but they lost the XG battle 1.5 to 0.9, so they were a little bit fortunate to win that by such a comfortable scoreline. And whenever they've faced a good team this season, they've been well beaten. So City did them 3-1, Chelsea did them 3-0, Spurs did them 4-1. And I fancy Arsenal to carry on that hot streak and win by a couple of goals.
I have a bet in that game as well, and I look to get a little bit more juice. So I'm going to go Arsenal win to 0 at plus 157. It's making my top 3 of the week. Arsenal were great. I think we said ahead of our Champions League podcast that Arsenal were back. I mean, they were comprehensive against Sporting, coming off another impressive 3-0 victory over Nottingham Forest as well. So I'll back Arsenal in this one. I know that there's a little bit of a question with Gabriel in the injury. They move Calafiori inside and, put Zinchenko. I'm not really worried about that because they certainly have depth in players that can play in the back, even with the Ben White injury on top of that. No losses in 3 overall for Arsenal. They've only conceded 6 goals away. They've only scored 6 goals away from home as well. But look at who they played. They've been at Villa, at City, at Bournemouth, at Newcastle, at Spurs, at Chelsea. And even their away fixtures in the Champions League have been difficult. Inter, Atalanta, and then Sporting. Like, it's been a tough away schedule. This is probably the easiest game that they've had away from home so far. And they did pick up a clean sheet at both Villa and Spurs away. Arsenal won this fixture, by the way, 6-0 last year, just for comparison's sake. And West Ham, they haven't lost in their last 3 at home, but they beat Ipswich Town at home. They beat United in controversial fashion. Then they played to a 0-0 at Everton, which was, and this is the last game where they're probably their most influential attacking player, Mohamed Kudus, this is the final game he's suspended as well. So I circled that 3-0 at Chelsea, playing Chelsea earlier in the year for West Ham, and this is the game that it kind of reminds me of. I think that Arsenal can win this one quite handily, and I love that number at plus 157 to back it. Anything else in the Premier League this weekend?
Yeah, I've got one more bet, and it comes in the Manchester United-Everton game. And I was very surprised to see the goal line so low for so backable. We're getting 2.5 is where the line is. And I'm going to back under at plus 114. Obviously, most of this is down to the fact that Everton are involved because they are the unders kings at the moment. Just very hard to play against. They're not conceding many chances, but they're also not creating much. Unders has landed in all of the last 6. Just 5 goals scored across the last 6 matches. It's been 3 0-0s. They're just a very low margin team. And I think United, before Amorim came in, they actually went under in 4 of 6 prior to his arrival. They didn't look great in attack against Ipswich. I think we know that it's going to take some time to kind of get the attacking patterns and forward movements up and running. But defensively, I think that's the kind of easiest part to sort and get where you want it to be. And I think that there were signs of that last week. I know Ipswich created a couple of good chances, but United were missing key players still. And I think the other factor for this as well is that Man United play midweek. And I think Amorim's probably going to want to try and play a first team in Thursday and the weekend. It might keep him a bit tired. Obviously, we are guessing here. But either way, I'm taking unders because I think Everton are just so stingy at the moment. And the price, I think, is huge. Plus 114. And the line's actually at 2 3/4, but I'm going to drop it to 2.5. Might be in my top 3.
Even with this, being Amorim's first Premier League home match, I can't bet on a Manchester United game right now. There's too many different variables at play, so I'll stay away. I'll run down the gauntlet of games, and in the Premier League this weekend, I feel like we're kind of at the stage last season where the goal totals were still a little bit low, and then things went bananas, went crazy, and they had to adjust, and every week we were getting like 3.5. This could be the week where there could be a market adjustment after it, because Wolves Bournemouth, the total's at 3, and you're getting plus 107 for the over. I'm fine taking that. Wolves are over 2.5 in 9 of 10. Both teams have scored in 9 of 10. They've scored in every home game thus far. 5 of 6 have gone over 2.5. And they've also conceded 14 goals at home, which is the most. And they're coming off another overperformance, an emphatic 4-1 win at at Fulham. Bournemouth, meanwhile, no clean sheet in 4. Both teams' scores played in 4 of 5. They've conceded in every away match, and they've gone over 2.5 in 4 of the 6 away games. Their away XG is 11.11 while only scoring 7 goals. So they're not being rewarded for their efforts. And their XG is the 5th highest away, and they're coming off a 2-1 loss last time away, 2-1 at Brighton. So head-to-head, Wolves have not a clean sheet against Bournemouth against 3. So I think there's goals in this game. I also think this is a decent enough bounce-back spot for Newcastle at Crystal Palace. You can get them on the handicap, give a quarter of a goal. So if it ends in a draw, you only lose half your bet at plus 102. Palace have been fine. They've been competitive at home against decent teams, but they've only scored 3 goals at home. The XG is way, way, way higher, but we're still not sure if Eze is going to play. Glasner's already said he's got to be careful with the player because they have 8 home fixtures in the month of December. So I think they'll proceed with a little bit of caution here. Newcastle, meanwhile, they played 7 of their last 9 to under 2.5. How is it this team scoring goals? And all their issues have been at the back in terms of the injuries at center back. Dan Burn comes back in this one. You said it earlier. They had the better XG against West Ham, a little bit unlucky there. And their last away game, it was a good one, a 3-1 win over Nottingham Forest. So give me Newcastle on the handicap. Continuing on, listen, Spurs were brilliant on last weekend, winning 4-0 at City. None of us saw that coming, but they were fortunate not to concede. Vicario was excellent in that game. And guess who's out for the next few months? The goalkeeper, Vicario. They played Dragushin and Davies at the back and somehow kept a clean sheet against Man City. I'm thinking that Fulham are going to score goals in this game at them this weekend. You get Fulham over 1.5 goals at plus 157. That was my exact same play on Spurs going to City. I just think that Fulham coming off a game that they're well beaten, a team that's looked dangerous. The data's backed them up. They're much better than what they've shown. And I think that the Spurs team, the one thing that you can expect is them to give up a lot of chances. They've gone over 2.5 in their last 5 games. And yeah, we'll see if Christian Romero plays. I'm not even sure how much that will solidify that back line. Only a half play there on Fulham to winning over the total. Another one of my favorite plays this week was back the best home side in the Premier League in Brentford, 5-1-0 at home to win, plus the over 2.5 at plus 139 against Leicester City. Steve Cooper's out. This Leicester City team concedes goals for fun.
Have you seen who's coming in?
Who it sounds like it's going to be Ruud van Nistelrooy.
It's going to be Ruud van Nistelrooy, yeah.
And we'll see what that means for them. Even this weekend, is his focus going to be on shutting up shop defensively? I don't think so. It was all about bringing joy back to the United team. When he beat Leicester City twice, I guess that's what you need to do to get a job. Is
8-2 on aggregate, yeah.
Something like that. Leicester City have conceded 14 at home and 15 away from home, and 15.9 expected goals against away from home is the second worst XGA in the Premier League. No clean sheet in their last 6, over 2.5 in 5 of their last 6. Both teams to score has played in 5 of their last 6. But Onate's suspended this weekend, and Harry Winks is hurt. Good luck taking on a Brentford side. 18 goals at home. But they've also conceded the second most goals at home as well. So Leicester City could very well score in this game. 15.41 expected goals. It's the second best XG at home as well. Both teams to score has played in 9 of 10. Their last 3 home games, 3-2, 4-3, 5-3 against Bournemouth, Ipswich Town, and Wolves. To me, comparable quality to Leicester City. So they're healthy in attack. Brentford has injuries at the back, and the only reason last week stayed 0-0 against Everton was because Damsgaard got sent off. So that's going to be one of my top 3 plays this weekend. Brentford to win in over 2.5 at plus 139. Shall we move on to, do you have anything to add on those Premier League plays, or shall we move on to the Bundesliga?
Let's go.
Their Klassiker this weekend,
there, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, it's a huge game this weekend. Both teams in great form. Is Borussia Dortmund hosting Bayern Munich? What do we know about this fixture, Jake? When these two teams
usually delivers plenty of goals.
Are you backing that this time around? The goals into Klassiker, Dortmund and Bayern Munich.
I'm not, no. I think the line's a little bit too high.
No. Okay, go.
It's too high for me to get involved in, just purely because of Bayern Munich are playing with such control at the moment. There's so many low-scoring games they're being involved in. You called one out last week, didn't you? Augsburg at home. They had a 1-0 at St. Pauli in the last away match. Obviously, they beat PSG midweek 1-0 as well. I think they're probably deserving of going overs in quite a few of those games in terms of creating chances, but Dortmund at home are a very, very tough opponent. I think they're the best home team in the Bundesliga according to record at the moment.
They are
6 wins from 6. Bayern obviously the best away team, 5 wins from 6. Dortmund, for whatever reason, are just polar opposites in home and away. They're tragic away so far this season, but really strong at home. They've conceded barely any chances. So yeah, I would be very wary about taking the goal line at 3.5, because I think this could be one of those cagey games similar to what we saw with Leverkusen.
See, I'm just going the overs in this one as well. Like the reason Bayern Munich have won their last 7 games and they haven't conceded a goal over that span. But when you look at who they've actually played against in their last 3 away fixtures in the Bundesliga, and they haven't conceded in any of them, Mainz, Bochum, and St. Pauli. Come on, this is a step up in competition. Dortmund have won every game they've played at home in all competitions this season. They have been that good. You know, in the Bundesliga, 6 from 6, 18 goals scored, 6 conceded, and they have an XG of 17.71. That's a ridiculously good number. So they're true to form in those 18 goals that have been scored, including the 4-0 win over Freiburg last weekend. Bayern Munich, you mentioned PSG, they beat them 1-0, but they had an XG of that game of 2.45. They're 5-1-0 away from home. They're the Dortmund away from home because Bayern Munich are the best team by a mile away from home in the Bundesliga. 5-1-0, 23 goals scored away from home and 6 conceded, a 17.31 expected goals as well. Notably, though, when they've struggled away, it's been when they've stepped up in competition. They haven't put it on lockdown. 3-3 at Eintracht Frankfurt, and then in the Champions League, that 4-1 loss at Barcelona. Dortmund's a step up from typically who they've been playing. And historically, this fixture have brought the goals over nine of the last 10 games. Both teams' scorers played in 8 of the last 10 games. And at Dortmund, that's especially the case. Total goals in their last 6 fixtures they played one another at Dortmund, 4-4-5, 4-5-5. Let's go with over 3.5 at plus 103, a full unit play here. Come on, Jake. Jump on board. You can get behind this market. I can hear your voice saying Dortmund, Bayern, always bet the over.
Yeah, you make a good case, but unfortunately, I'm going to sit this one out. I'm not going to back the unders, but I'm not going to back the overs either. I'm just going to watch the game. Hope to see plenty of goals, but yeah, 3.5. Just in which the way Bayern are playing. I don't know. I feel like I need to see more of Vincent Kompany's team to get a proper gauge. So, yeah, I'll leave you to that one. You can ride solo on that one.
They've been playing ridiculously attacking-oriented teams as well, and they've been playing weaker teams, and they've done the job against them defensively. So, yeah, I'm backing the over in that one. Anything else in the Bundesliga?
I don't actually have anything in the Bundesliga this week. No, I have something for La Liga and Serie A. But do you have anything left in the Bundesliga?
No, I don't. No? Same for both. I'll let you start off. Let's go to La Liga. What's going on in Spain this weekend?
Well, it's very unusual for me to get involved in games featuring really, really bad teams in La Liga. But I
love it. That's where there's lots of value. Lots of it.
I just think that the goal lines from a couple of games are actually really low and really interesting and definitely worth taking a chance on. And the one that's the lowest of the week is Alavés versus Leganés.
I saw that one.
It's set at 2, but it's not just at 2. You're getting a plus number for 2 goals in the game. Or obviously, you back over 2. If there's exactly 2, you get your money back. If there's 3 or more, you get a winner. But yeah, just looking at the data, it doesn't really make much sense as to why it's so low. Alavés have actually gone over the 2.5 threshold in 9 of 14. Leganés have gone over in just 5 of 14, but those 4 of those 5 have come in the last 5 games, so they're recent. Have seen a big uptick in terms of goals. On the underlying data, Alavés matches have averaged 2.8 XG per game this season. Leganés at 2.34. At home, Alavés 2.4 XG per game. Leganés 2.5 away. So I think probably the line maybe should be closer to 2.25, and I probably still would make the play on the over. I think that this is one that's of interest just because the line's so low. And I think if you backed this bet blind all season, so if you backed over 2 in every Alavés and Leganés games, you would have won 9 out of 14 for Alavés, 5 out of 14 for Leganés, but you would have only lost a combined 7 times across the 28 games, and you would have actually won 14 times. So you would have won 14, pushed 7 and lost 7. So you'd be well ahead if you just back this line in every game. So I think it's just low enough to just have a little punt and hope that a kind of relegation 6-pointer turns into a high-scoring game.
I was going to ask you, I mean, the total of the weekend is in the Friday fixture, Mallorca and Valencia. It's 1.75, and the over's playing at minus 112. Like, do you almost have to blindly play that? Like, it jumps off the page because it's very rare you see anything south of 2.
So low. Yeah. I mean, Mallorca's games this season are averaging 1.8 goals, which kind of goes some way to explaining that. And at home, they're averaging 1.1 goals per game. 1.1 goals per game is insane. Their poor fans have watched just 8 goals in 7 matches. So that's probably why. They're very, very hard to break down, don't create much chances themselves, 1-0 either way. So yeah, I had a look at that, but I having seen the Mallorca stats, I could understand why it was so low. But the other goal line that I like is in Espanyol versus Celta Vigo. Mm-hmm. The line's at 2.5. Again, we're getting a plus money, plus 106. Espanyol have gone over 2.5 in 8 of 13. They're averaging 2.9 goals per game. Celta have gone over 2.5 in 10 of 14, averaging 3.3 goals per game. The data stands up to those goal averages as well. And at home, Espanyol matches are averaging 2.8 expected goals per game. Celta's 3.2 away. And over 2.5 has landed in 4 of both teams' last 5 matches. So I'm wondering why the line is set at 2.5 when these two sides have consistently gone overs so often of late. So yeah, I'm more than happy to make a play on that, and that might make my top 3.
Brilliant. One from La Liga for me this weekend. I love picking on bad teams in this league, whether it be for the goal total or the handicap. Atletico Madrid's going to Real Valladolid. It's a full goal spread, but at plus 106, it's worthwhile to take. Valladolid, 6 points at home. It's the worst home record in La Liga, 1-3-3. Their first match was their only win. It came 1-0 over Espanyol. They've only conceded 7, but they've only scored 5. They haven't even played anyone good at home. Like, literally, look at their fixture list. They played a bunch of dogs at home, and whenever they step up in competition, they get destroyed. They lost 7-0 to Barcelona. It was away, but still 7-0. Same thing with Real Madrid. I look at Atletico Madrid very much in the same way. Step up in competition, that means bad things for the home side. Atleti's rolling now. 6 wins in a row, including the 6-0 over Slavia Prague midweek. Head-to-head, Atletico Madrid, 5 wins and no losses in recent games against Valladolid. Valladolid, no clean sheet in the last 5. It was 5-2 in this fixture last season, and it was a 3-0 home win for Atletico Madrid as well. And Valladolid haven't won at home against Atletico Madrid in their last 7. And the minus a goal, taking a full goal, was a winner in 4 of those bets, and only pushed in 2, and it was only a loser 1 time. So take the way better side, taking on a soft side at home, and hope that they come away with a 2-goal victory. I think that that's worthwhile. That's my only other play in La Liga this weekend. It's worthwhile to quickly take a look at Serie A this weekend, because Fiorentina is in really good form. They host Inter this weekend, and the odds are kind of spread relatively evenly. Fiorentina is a home dog in this one, but I'm kind of interested in backing Inter on the other side of things here, because you can get them to win at plus 105. I would have thought, Jake, it might have been in the minus 110 range. That's just what my numbers told me. Identical records with Fiorentina at home and Inter away, 4-2-0. Similar returns in terms of goals scored and conceded, 14-6 for Fiorentina, 15-5 for Inter. But Inter have won their last 3 meetings against Fiorentina. They've won their last 6 away and haven't lost at Fiorentina in their last 9. I look at the way that they played midweek, very controlled 1-0 home win against RB Leipzig. They're just a team in great form right now. I think that any time that you can back them against a team that I personally feel is inferior to Inter away from home and get them at a plus number, it's worthwhile to back, for me, one of the best teams in European football right now in Inter. So that's my one of my 2 plays in Serie A. How are you looking at that game?
Yeah, similarly, to be fair, I think Inter should be a little bit shorter. They are the defending champions. They are starting to find a bit of a groove defensively. They're starting to find a bit more balance, keeping lots of clean sheets. And Fiorentina's calling card of late has been scoring a lot of goals. So if Inter can halt them, then they should get the win, because they've also been conceding chances. But my favourite bet in Serie A actually comes from the best team in Serie A, which is Atalanta. They play on a Monday.
Roma.
And I'm not going to back the overs. I'm actually going to back Atalanta to win, because I think the price on Atalanta to win at plus 131 is extremely disrespectful to the golfing class that's formed between Roma and Atalanta.
Yeah, that's fair.
Roma are on the 4th manager of the campaign. Ranieri's in charge. It didn't go well for him in his opening game against Napoli. Lost 1-0, conceded over 2 expected goals, created next to nothing. They travel to Spurs on Thursday. Another very tough game before playing Atalanta. Atalanta obviously played on Tuesday night, so they've got a bit of rest advantage. But yeah, Atalanta, on the data, the best team in the league. Most expected points away from home, most expected goals away from home. Recently went to Napoli, won 3-0. Roma are just a middling team at the moment. A negative XG process. They've actually been on the decline ever since Jose Mourinho left the club. And yeah, they're 3, 4, and 6 on the season. and just generally a very average team. So in my mind, Roma are probably around the kind of level of a Bologna at this moment in time, and I think Atalanta would be a lot shorter than plus 131 if they were to go to Bologna. So I think that we're getting some juice in that price.
Okay, I'm going to add to this because I was just going to play to the over, but I agree with everything that you said. And that was going to be part of my best plays this week. It's set at 2.5, the goal total. And we know Atalanta in Serie A, what they're doing. It's a weekly play here on this podcast. It's at minus 118, though. Let's add that Atalanta and the over 2.5 at plus 261. That's a big old number. That will slot right in. That will make my podium. That will be my third play for the week. So we're looking at things in a very similar way. That's all for me this week. I've flirted and I might still play Lazio at Parma this weekend to win that match outright. I'm interested. I don't really trust Como. Neither them or Monza seems like they've won in forever, but Como plus money beating Monza at home, I just can't quite get there, but I was tempted by that as well. But we'll leave it there with those two plays in Serie A this weekend. All right. That's the board this weekend. Jake, what are your top three plays?
So my top three are going to be Arsenal on the handicap, first up, minus 1.25, getting plus 102. My second favourite bet is over 2.5 in Espanyol versus Celta at plus 106. And number three is under 2.5 in Man United Everton at plus 114.
Okay, brilliant. We're going to slot in that Atalanta win and over 2.5 at plus 261. Let's go. I'm also liking an Arsenal play at number 2 this week. Arsenal win to 0 at West Ham at plus 157. And my favorite play of the week, Brentford, the best home side in the Premier League, to beat lowly Leicester City. Come on, Root. Plus and combine that with over 2.5 at plus 139. Here we go. We've had some good plus money wins and plays over recent weeks, and let's hope that continues here again this week. Good stuff, Jake. We'll get together next week. There's midweek fixtures in the Premier League that we'll be able to dissect after the fact as we move forward. It's a big time across European football. Good stuff, buddy.
Nice one. Have a good weekend. Best of luck.
And remember, bet smart, that is. Bet Pinnacle on behalf of Jake. I'm Wheels, and this has been episode 14 of Pinnacle FC.